You are descended from giants. By choosing to be here this morning at Phoenix Unitarian Universalist congregation, you have joined a legacy of people who act for their moral causes and for their values and for their principles. I had to make myself taller to tell you this story. Being Unitarian Universalist means we know a lot of the same songs, we know a lot of the same sayings, but sometimes we don't know the histories and the stories. And you know that I love to tell a biography, right? I love to tell you a story about a person. So I'm going to do that today, but it's raining out and we have amazing music, so we're not going to run around and play, and I know all of you like to play on the playground after service, so I want to make sure you get some movement in here, okay? There's a phrase we use a lot, and we often say that Martin Luther King Jr. said it, which he wasn't the first person that said it. He liked it, and we like it too. That the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice. So let's embody that moral arc. For those of you who want to, can, willing, feeling strong today, let's make an arc around the sanctuary of people. Let's make a big arc. And for those of you who need to stay seated, good, because we need center points. We need stasis as well as movement. Kiddos at the back table, come join us. Whew. And I have to start by saying I love you because I thought 10 of you were going to stand up. I love you. You all are amazing. Ready for a biography? Okay. Buckminster Fuller was born in 1895. I need to look at Sam. I got that number right. He was born in 1895. His father was a Unitarian minister. His grandfather was a Unitarian minister. And Mr. Richard Buckminster Fuller, what do you think he was? I know who cheated. He was an architect. An architect is someone who builds buildings, and designs shape. So let's live into our building a little bit. Sadly, it wasn't built by Buckminster Fuller. I would never leave if we went to a church that was built by Buckminster Fuller. Also, it would be shaped like a dome, because he figured out how to create a shape out of triangles or out of pentagons and hexagons, flat shapes that were domes, that were amazingly strong. And despite being constructed round shapes, they could hold concrete. So for a minute, make yourself into that dome. If it's by hunching over, if it's by hunching back, arching back, and feel those spots in your spine, your elbows, and your shoulders where it gets warm and maybe even feels a little tight. Be that dome. Because Buckminster Fuller's geodesic dome could withstand tornadoes. It could withstand lightning strikes. I don't know why our church was built by Blaine Drake instead, but especially on rainy days, I worry about this. But that being said, Buckminster Fuller was a Unitarian architect who lived into his values strongly. Because being descended from giants, show me your giant pose, comes not just with strength, but also responsibility. And that responsibility is to show your values. So how did he live out his values? Well, as an architect, he saw his faith in the designs he built. And he would be asked to lecture, and he would always talk about his beliefs. Now, it wasn't him going out and saying, oh yeah, I built this building, and by the way, you should all convert to my religion. Because that's not an effective way, right? No, he would be invited to speak about his structures, and he would say things about how he built them that were also about how his heart felt. I love his quotes, so of course I printed them out. I will put these at the back table if any of you need to take them home today, okay? The first one is we are called to be architects of the future, not its victims. So while the people before us made us strong, we are required to help make the people after us strong. And we get to shape not just what 20 years from now looks like, not just what tomorrow looks like, but you all get to shape what coffee hour looks like. So architects often have big drafting tables and lights that go over them, and they have to hunch over and write like this, and they write in big block letters that are specific to architecture. So show me you writing with your big block letters. Spot the lefties. Good job. Surprise, you all are. He also said, tension is the great integrity. Which, when I first heard this, I was like, what does that mean? What could that possibly mean? But I think I figured it out. And Bob and Gio, if the two of you would come right here, you have to put down the instrument. Oh, and Elizabeth. Okay, so it's this idea that our strongest point is often the part where we push against. So if everyone put your hands together, where do you feel your strength? In your palms, you might feel in the shoulders, right? Because that's also where you're pushing. You don't necessarily feel your strength along here. Another way we can see that strength is when we push against each other to build something. So that's one way, right? So what Buckminster Fuller said is, don't fight forces, use them. So what if the two of you were back to back and seated? Yep, on the ground. Yep. Oh my gosh, wait, you have to get dirty to make change. So now we're gonna have them link elbows. Link elbows? Yep. And stand up. Thank you so much. So that idea of when we're pushing against, we're feeling the strongest, but it's also when we grasp together. So if you are comfortable touching hand to hand, take a minute to shake the hand of someone next to you. Remember that on Monday when you have a business meeting and you meet a new client for the first time and shake their hands, it is your chance to live out your values. And on Friday when you meet friends for a drink and you high-five them, it is a chance to live out your values. Because all of those moments, that energy in between us, look and see how much space there is and isn't between us. Acknowledge that space between. That energy is important. That energy is sacred. And Buckminster Fuller called that energy God. And he said, for God to me, it seems, is a verb, not a noun. It's the movement between the spaces. It is loving. It is knowledge dynamic. So God is us using what we have in our minds through our bodies and through our communities. He said, yes, God is a verb, the most active. Connoting, okay, wait, we have another pose we have to take. What is your most receptive to the wackiest sounding spiritual advice ever pose? Maybe it's, but it might also be praying, it might also be hands down, it might be hands up, it might be a skeptical ear. So he says, God is a verb, the most active, connoting the vast harmonic reordering of the universe. God is how the universe moves itself from unleashed chaos of energy. So, give yourself a moment of unleashed chaos. And then give yourself the peace of order. And remember that your ability to move from chaos to calm and back again bravely is your divinity, is sacred in you. Take a deep breath. Let's look at our room, look where it arcs in that dome shape. Look at how smooth the curves are and those tension points up on the ceiling, the line that splits us. Feel how each of that can be a statement and a metaphor for how we are together, or how it can just be concrete blocks. But all of that is what we choose. Take a look at your community around you in this big, strong arc. Remind yourself that every single one of these people has chosen to be here because the giants that you have are the giants that they have, and that together you will become what shapes the world, and you already are. Take your giant pose. Take your architect pose. Tension, chaos, and now open to the weirdest words. When I am working on a problem, I never think about beauty, but when I have finished, if the solution is not beautiful, I know it is wrong. So together today, let's work to make our community beautiful. Thank you. Have a seat.